for me. First of all, hello everyone. Ciao Rainer, ciao Trina, ciao everyone who's connected today. I'm in Vermont and on a little vacation trip, and I'm talking about Sardinia. So my brain is a little shaken, and nonetheless, I'm thrilled. First of all, because I've been considering building my own itinerary tour of Sardinia for many years. But most of all, I've been on vacation in Sardinia several times years ago, and it's one of my favorite places in Europe, actually in the world. And I have so many friends, including some of you who are listening today, asking me questions about Sardinia. And I decided to take it on and do this talk and give you I will try to give an extensive and yet quick introduction overview to this incredible, phenomenal island of the Mediterranean. So Sardinia, in Italian Sardegna, as you can see from the title. I hope everybody can see the screen okay and can hear me okay. Sardegna, but the original name of Sardinia is neither Sardinia or Sardegna, it's Icnusa. Today it's the name of a beer made in Sardinia, very good beer actually. But the ancient name in Greek, Icnusa, means footprint. So the footprint of the island, because the island looks like a footprint actually. And you know, the Greeks with their mythology and incredible storytelling techniques, they knew exactly how to impress people, and that's why Sardinia was called Icnusa, the footprint of one of the giants. Anyway, now the name is Sardinia in English. And I'm going to show you some pictures, because one thing that I want to mention from the very beginning about Sardinia is that most likely is the most isolated island in the Mediterranean. Of course, not in the world, because if you think of Iceland, for example, Iceland is way farther than anyone else. But in the Mediterranean, in the ancient world of the Mediterranean, Sardinia is by far the most isolated island from the mainland. It could be compared to Cyprus, but Sardinia is equally distant from Italy, France, North Africa, and Spain. So the amount of influence that this region had from these four, northeast, west, south, corners of the world, of the ancient world, is equal. And it's amazing if you think about it, because it shaped a unique setting, a unique scenario, and most of all, a unique culture. Therefore, unique people, unique food, unique language, unique architecture, and so on. Just to give you a very quick idea, if you travel through Sardinia in the northwest, most likely you're going to speak Catalan dialects, like in the town of Alghero, Spanish, Catalan. If you are from the east coast of Sardinia, most likely you will speak some Italian dialect. And if you're from the southeast, you most likely speak a mix of Greek, Phoenician, Carthaginian, African, and Italian. So it's a unique place. It's a mess. It's a beautiful mess. Like Italy, it is. Sardinia even more, because it's on its own. Okay, I will show you some of my selected pictures. Also, thanks to the help of Reiner's, we made a selection of pictures. In this cover that I posted, you see a beautiful shot of Castelsardo. Castelsardo is an incredible hill town in the north coast of Sardinia. Now, Sardinia has this very special feature of many hill towns by the cliff on the water. And the waters, as you can see in my back, look, this is a picture of La Pelosa Stintino that I'm using as a background. Now, when you think of Caribbean water, Bermuda, Hawaii, Greece water, like level of beaches and water, Sardinia is at the same level. And some people consider Sardinian beaches the finest at least in Europe, together with the Greek islands. So if you like the beach, Sardinia is a good way to go. So I'll show you some pictures, and I will give you comments. Here, for example, you have the beautiful town of Alghero, where they speak Catalan, and you can still see the big bastion by the waterfront and the big walled boardwalk with the ancient town of Alghero. And look at the water. I mean, Sardinia, you have ancient history, ancient archaeology, incredible food, because you're still in Italy and they have their own dishes, and that kind of water. So you have everything in one place. if you like those things, of course. If you don't like the beach, if you don't like food, if you don't like archaeology, maybe there's a problem. So we go to the next one. This is another shot that I really enjoy. It's a mix of some of the delicacies of Sardinia. Sardinia is famous for their pecorino cheese, their cold cuts. I mean, Sardinian pecorino cheese is considered the finest, together with Tuscan. As a matter of fact, most of Tuscan shepherds are originally from Sardinia, because in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of migration from Sardinia to Tuscany, because Sardinia had the millenary know-how of how to make cheese. Tuscany had the land. Sardinia didn't have enough land, too many shepherds. So they migrated, the shepherds and the sheep migrated to Tuscany. And today, Tuscan pecorino in Pienza, the famous Tuscan pecorino, most likely is made by masterclass pecorino makers of Sardinia. And of course, many other incredible delicacies of Sardinia, including their ricotta and their fruit and vegetables. Another important thing, the island of Sardinia is very fertile, so the quality of the ingredients is delicious. And that would be something that I suggest you do if you decide to take a trip to Sardinia. Taste all of it in Sardinia. We have another beautiful view. This is the town of Bosa, another small town, but very charming. You can see the colorful homes of Bosa. Bosa is famous in Tuscany, B-O-S-A. It's very famous for the typical structure. Again, waterfront, walled waterfront, town, elevated part of the town. And then in this case, you have at the very top, you have the beautiful castle, root castle of Bosa. Everything in one village. This is a typical village of Sardinia. And this is a place that I remember the first time I went, I thoroughly enjoyed Bosa. This is instead a view of Cagliari. Cagliari is the capital city of Sardinia. It's a city of a few hundred thousand inhabitants in the south area of Sardinia by the water, and is the capital. And it also hosts the spectacular archaeological museum. It's a national archaeological museum of Cagliari, which hosts unique features from the Phoenician Carthaginian period. Phoenician Carthaginians are the populations that populated in the ancient times. The Phoenicians were from nowadays Lebanon, and then by migrating west, because they were able to sail longer distances than the other people, the Greeks and the Etruscans, and even the Romans, they were able to sail much further, in this case west, to look for better land and better conditions, and they settled in the north shores of Africa. But eventually they settled in Sicily, Sardinia, Spain, even in the Black Sea, even in nowadays Crimea. There's traces of Phoenician culture. Cagliari is a typical example of a ancient Phoenician settlement developed in this beautiful town that it is today. Of course, we're talking about almost fully tropical weather, therefore lots of palm trees, incredible fruit and vegetables, and the architecture of Cagliari is nonetheless beautiful. Another incredible view of the coastline of Sardinia. Sardinia is also a destination for those who like boat sailing, and you like, your sea experiences. In the summertime, Sardinia is very famous for hosting a lot of people, beach vacationers. July and August is the peak season for Sardinia, so it's very warm and everybody's by the beach. And that's why it gets expensive and crowded in the summer, but not crowded like Rome or Venice. It's crowded mainly with people that want to enjoy the beach, high-end cocktails, high-end restaurants, high-end hotels, high-end yachts, and so on, like the high-end lifestyle. But the rest of the year, Sardinia, it's actually one of the most beautiful regions of Italy. And in the shoulder season, usually April, May, and then September, October, most people don't go to the beach, even though you can totally go to the beach because the weather is full Mediterranean climate. And yet prices are way less than half the price of the peak season of July and August. We continue. Also, the geology in Sardinia is fairly unique in Europe because you have a lot of minerary resources. Sardinia has been for thousands of years one of the top destinations for all of the ancient populations. That's why people wanted to conquer Sardinia, not because of the beaches, not because of the cocktails, not because of the food, but because of the fertility and the resources. iron, zinc, magnesium, all sorts of minerals you could possibly find in the Mediterranean are heavily present in Sardinia. And that's why the southwest of the island is fully dedicated to beautiful, beautiful towns built within these incredible geological areas. And this is an example, one of many examples of the gorges that you can actually walk through in Sardinia. And all of these boulders that you see are full of these many minerals. So the geology, for those who like geology in Sardinia, is mind-blowing, because every mile you go, the rock changes color, the sand changes color. You have white sand, black sand, gray sand, pink sand, yellow sand, red sand, and with it all of the rocks, of course, all of the formations. Another highlight of Sardinia, many people go on their own, is the so-called tomb of the giants. Now, there's no giants buried here, but these were most likely group tombs. So there were very big structures built in ancient times, like 3,000-4,000 years ago. So very, very old days of Sardinia, way before the ancient populations of the Phoenicians and the Romans and the Greek. So there were burials for many people. So in one burial, we'll have many people buried from the same village, same family, same environment. And that's why the size of the tombs is so big that people thought in the old days, they thought, oh, the giants must have been buried here. That's why they're called the tombs of the giants. Yet these are incredible ancient archaeological findings that can be visited in the northeast side of the island. Then we've got another picture, like I showed you in the same pictures I showed you in the beginning, Castel Sardo, this iconic hilltop of Sardinia in the northwest of the island. Look at the beautiful design of the town up on the hilltop, on the slope, with the beautiful water at the very bottom. People in Sardinia have this dichotomy between hilltop and water more than any other region in Italy. Sometimes you can associate it to people of Cinque Terre and Amalfi, you know, that kind of relationship with the steepness, the vertical lifestyle. And yet these are fantastic places. And Amalfi and Cinque Terre, everybody knows. Sardinia, everybody heard of, but nobody has ever been, because it's not on the main map. But one thing that I'm strongly doing myself, and I'm sure Rainer and Trina and my colleagues at Garibaldi are doing, we're also working hard on showing our friends and customers top-notch, authentic places to really enjoy and thoroughly understand the culture of a place. Sardinia is Italy. Sardinia is known by name, and very few people have been to Sardinia. And once you go to Sardinia, you tend to go back, because it's one of those places that you cannot forget in your life. The diversity of the region is pretty incredible. The diversity and the cuisine. In this case, I'm showing you this incredible woman making you seadas or seatas, which are delicious bittersweet dessert. It's a mix of it's like a little crepe with a topping of hot honey, and it's heavenly. I don't know how to describe it other than that. You try one seada, unfortunately they're like peanuts, you know, you go tum 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 and you continue having seadas. It's a very special dessert. Seadas are special. They're not for everyday events. So if you visit Sardinia and you order seadas, they will be honored to serve you seadas. But seadas are for very special occasions, weddings, celebrations, even for sad events, you know, the passing away of family members. Often Sardinians make you seadas as a celebration, because for Sardinian culture, like many ancient cultures, passing away is not a sad event. I mean, it's sad because you're not going to be physically with us anymore, but to them, it's also a joyful event. Somehow, like in an Irish wake, you know, you celebrate the life of the person. The seadas are the signature of the celebration for Sardinians. Whether you're alive or dead, doesn't matter. They have seadas. And when I had seadas the first time with my dad and mom, that was for life. I have seadas flavor printed in here. Oh, here we have another spectacular view of north side of Sardinia. This is the south, the northwest, sorry, the northwest coastline of Sardinia, and this is one of the many stretches of land that create this isthmus, this very special climate, like microclimates in Sardinia. Sardinia, if you look at the map of Sardinia, I'll show you a couple of pictures of a map, but eventually, if you take a look on your own, there are lots of coves, gulfs, isthmus, stretches of land. Each of them splits the sea in different ways and creates different currents and water streams. And so if you're on one side of the isthmus, the water might be chilly. If you go to the other side, it's like hot. So that's something that I love about Sardinia. There's always a place to go to when you're in Sardinia. And if you look at the picture on top, you have this incredible Spanish towers. The Spanish controlled part of Sardinia for a long time. And in fact, you have these constructions, these beautiful constructions. There were watchtowers, of course, watchtowers to control both sides of the isthmus, both sides of the land. And this is a better picture of one of the many towers. One of the many towers. Now, this towers formation that you think of is not a modern thing. It's not a Spanish invention in Sardinia. As a matter of fact, 5,000, not 500, 5,000 years ago in Sardinia, the local people, the Sardinians, created the construction of the Nuraghe, Nuraghe, singular. Nuraghe, it's an ancient structure, like a tower structure made of dry walls with boulders. They were used for military purposes, but often they were also used for sacred ceremonies. Often the warriors defending the territory would be using it as a barrack, an army barrack, as a defensive structure for the territory. And Sardinia is full of nuraghe. It's the unique feature, architectural feature of Sardinia. Somehow when you go to Puglia, southeastern Italy, and you find the trulli, the pointed roofs, buildings, typical of the town of Alberobello. Alberobello is famous for being built completely in trullo technique. In Sardinia is the nuraghe, except that the nuraghe is 5,000 years old. Some of the nuraghe you see are from the 2000s BC, 1000 BC, and they're still standing. It's incredible. You can walk inside. You can walk inside. It's a UNESCO feature. It's protected by UNESCO now. One of the best beaches in the world. The picture speaks by itself. It's basically the back behind my back. This is the La Pelosa, the beach of La Pelosa Stintino in the north. The northern tip of Sardinia, pointing towards Corsica, the French island of Corsica. This is a place where I always go. Whenever I go to Sardinia, even if I have no car, I just rent a car just for the drive to La Pelosa and Stintino and spend a few hours at the beach. There's also, on the picture you don't see it, but there's also beautiful kiosks and little restaurants by the beach and some hotels. And it's one of the best places in the world for me. I love the beach. I love the sea. I love to dive in the sea. And here, if you wear like goggles under this water, you have like an aquarium for free, no ticket. This is another picture of La Pelosa. This looks like it used to look like in ancient Roman times, except that the beach was not such a thing back then. It wasn't a destination. The Greeks didn't go to the beach like we do today with an umbrella and a bed and a towel and swim. To them, it was more. What was more important was the fertility of the soil. And Sardinia has this beautiful dichotomy between rocky, so dramatic, beautiful. Light and dark effect, like chiaroscuro effect. At the same time, as soon as you move inland, lots of fertile land, incredible granaries, incredible crop of Sardinia, and therefore you have everything you need, the beauty and the flavors. On this map, for example, I'm showing you the 20 regions of Italy, and I'm showing you how far Sardinia is from the rest of Italy. When we think of Sicily, for example, It's an island, but there's 2 miles between Sicily and Calabria, so mainland Italy. Nonetheless, Sicily is an incredible island with incredible history. And Sicily was always the belly button of the Mediterranean. Everybody for thousands of years needed Sicily to control the west and the east of the Mediterranean, and to have a gate to the north and the south, the African side. Sardinia instead is different, because Sardinia is the center of the Western Mediterranean. It's a big difference. So when people ask me, like, is Sardinia like Sicily? I'm like, well, they're both islands, but the genesis of them is completely different. Sardinia was populated over 5,000 years ago by organized settlements, by organized civilizations. Sicily was a little different. Sicily became Sicily with that power, political power and military power, thanks to the Carthaginians and the Greeks and eventually the Romans. But in Sardinia, the local Sardinians were already living their own life away from everybody else. That's why today in Sardinia they even speak a language that's older than Latin. It's amazing to think about it. But some of the Sardinian dialects are older than ancient Latin, because they use Phoenician words. Phoenician and Carthaginians, the people I told you about, nowadays Lebanon, and Carthaginians, nowadays Tunis. In this picture, you see Phoenician outpost. Phoenicians were the best sailers in the Mediterranean in the 1,000 year before Christ, basically from the 900 BC till the 300 BC, when they were eventually taken over by the Romans and became Romanized. But the Romans acquired all of the know-how of the Phoenician technology when it came to sailing and long-distance transportation, therefore commerce, therefore politics, therefore able to trade with nowadays France, nowadays Lebanon, nowadays Black Sea, nowadays Morocco at the same time. Unique. And that's why in Sardinia you still have a lot of outposts, a lot of archaeological sites on the coast that show you Phoenician ruins. And that's something I strongly suggest you visit. I'll show you a few other pictures. This is a trullo. This is not one trullo. This is a village of trullo. Sorry, not trullo. Nuraghe. This is not one nuraghe. One nuraghe is one cylindric shaped building. This is a village of nuraghes. You see? This is Barumini. Barumini is protected by UNESCO. It's a UNESCO site, and it's considered the best and largest Nuraghe complex in the world, in the middle of Sardinia. This is in inland Sardinia, surrounded by beautiful wheat fields, you see, Barumini. And this is a view of a Nuraghe from inside another Nuraghe. So it was a village of Nuraghes. Again, remember, military and religious purposes. These were not just homes of regular people. They were mainly for soldiers, an army barrack. This is inside the Nuraghe, still in perfect shape. This is 3,000-plus-year-old Nuraghe from Barumini. You see the dry walls? They're still there. They don't move. They're happy to be there. And I was mentioning the Phoenicians. This is one of the finest Phoenician sites in the Mediterranean, not only in Sardinia, and it's in Sardinia. This is Tharros on the west coast of Sardinia, and it's a place that I visited many times, and every time I go, I find something new, because also in Tharros you can find not only the architecture, which you can see still buildings, columns, but you can also see some mosaics, some very, very special features of Phoenician times. And often we know about the Phoenicians because the Romans wrote about the Phoenicians, but we don't have much left of the Phoenician world. In Tharros, you have a lot left, because Tharros was eventually covered by the high tide and the flooding, and then it was rediscovered in recent times. So Tharros, Tharros. In this picture, in this map, I can show you quickly in 1 second the Phoenician trade. You see, they all left from nowadays Lebanon, Palestine, Israel area, and they moved east. The reason was always one: when the Phoenicians moved, the Greeks moved, the Romans eventually migrated. It was because they needed more land to feed their people. There was an overgrowth in population. There was no way like today to make sandwiches, like you press a button and 2 million sandwiches happen in 1 minute. You needed land to cultivate and to feed your people, for the crop, for the animals, for everything, for the water. Imagine water sources. If you conquer more land, you have more access to mountains, so snow, so water, creeks, rivers, lakes, and so on. So the Phoenicians had to do that. And starting the 900 BCE, they started migrating west to find more areas. So North Africa, southern Spain, central southern Sardinia, part of Sicily, and also they went into, you see the arrows, they even went into the Black Sea, and they went all over the place because they knew how to navigate the longest distances, because they were the first people in the world to realize that by following the North Star, you could even sail at night. You didn't have to wait for the daylight to follow direction. You could sail overnight. That gave you an incredible advantage. So within a few days, you could reach places that other populations could never reach. That's why they made it all the way to the Atlantic. Pretty incredible, huh? And this is, for example, the entrance of an ancient town, a Phoenician town, harbor. The Phoenicians had this beautiful concept of an incredible roundabout in the water, protected by the walls. You can kind of imagine it here, entering through a narrow channel in case of a siege, of attack that could be defended properly. Once you entered, you were allowed entrance. You would enter this big roundabout where you would unload the content of your ship, or load and then go around the roundabout and leave, like today we do with pickup trucks and trains. You know, it's pretty spectacular. And one of many beaches of Sardinia. Many of the beaches can actually be reached only by boat in Sardinia. You cannot really reach beaches, all the beaches, by car. It's better to reach by boat, because if you park your car at the top of the hill and then you have to go down and then up, it's going to take you forever. So often it's good to rent a boat for a few hours and have like some beach stops along the coast. And what you get is this. I mean, what you get is this. If you like this picture, this is one of thousands of top-notch beaches in Sardinia. I made a few collage of pictures for you. In this picture, you have two views of Cagliari, the biggest city of Sardinia. Then you have a view of the typical macarones, Sardinian pasta, handmade, very good with this ancient grain. And they often make it with a vegetarian sauce, but the traditional one is with, it's like a ragu of sheep meat. In Sardinia, sheep, of course, is king or queen, because they have there's more sheep in Sardinia than humans, so sheep is a big deal. And so you have options. You can have the vegetarian, vegan, or the ragu, also made with other kinds of meat. And then, of course, archaeology and nature, always together in Sardinia, always together. Everywhere you look at, every direction you look, boom, you're on the spot. Some other dishes, since it's dinner time over here, I thought the last few pictures, it would show you some good food. You've got the pane carasau. Pane carasau, top left, is the flat bread. It's like a crunchy, it's like a cracker bread, very round, circle, big, this big. And it's a cracker bread, so that's really good. And it's a toasted flat bread. And then you have many ancient grains in Sardinia. So if you eat the pasta or the farro, or alternatives to farro spelled in English, you have options. And then bottom left, you have the panadas. You can kind of see the names. Seadas, the sweet dessert with the honey, panadas, and so on. These are Spanish words ending in an S. Panadas instead is a bread basket, as you can see, which is then they cook the meat on a stew, like a stew. They put it inside. They bake the bread with the top, like a pot, a second bake, and then what you get is a delicious Sardinian dish. This is a unique dish of Sardinia, like the little gnocchetti. The gnocchetti on the right, the little gnocchi of Sardinia, like in a shell shape, another delicacy of Sardinian cuisine. Another specialty of Sardinian cuisine, for those who like meat, is maialino sardo, Sardinian pork. slowly roasted for hours and hours and hours, actually overnight. It roasts overnight on this skewer barbecue, and it's one of the best dishes I've ever had in my life. And it's a young pig. And it's a delicacy. Maialino sardo for Italians. When we think of pork meat, we think of the area I come from, Central Italy, for the porchetta and the sausages, and Sardinia for the maialino sardo, for the Sardinian piglet. It's just spectacular. More food in the top. On the top left, you see the arranzadas. It's the orange zest dessert typical of Sardinia. And then in the bottom right, you see the seadas, the dessert with the honey. And then top right, you see another delicacy of Sardinia, lamb with wild herbs, and then lots of seafood, of course, because being an island with those many 100 miles of coastlines, if you like seafood in Sardinia, no problem. But Sardinia is also famous for its wines. Remember, keep in mind that we're talking about one of 20 regions of Italy here. Sardinia is one of 20 regions. Italy is the only country in the world that has 20 regions. Each region produces wines, not just wines, DOC, DOCG, IGT wines, like high-level wines, from the Alps to Sicily, from Sardinia to the Adriatic. Every single place produces wine. And in fact, if you ever heard of a wine called Cannonau, Cannonau, it's from Sardinia, and it's an unbelievably good red wine. Mori and good gelato in Sardinia. Oh yeah. I even forgot to mention, but yes, in Sardinia there's delicious gelato. Thanks for the question. Also, if you have any questions, post anytime in the chat, as Rainer said before. But yeah, if you like gelato in Italy, really, you don't go wrong. Also in Sardinia, there are flavors that you can only find in Sardinia, like mirto. It's a very old, ancient berry. Like imagine blueberry. It's not blueberry. It's a different berry, typical of Sardinia. They even make a liqueur in mirto with the mirto berry, and they make gelato with mirto flavor. And you can find it somewhere else in Italy, but the best is in Sardinia. So in Sardinia, you even have special feature flavors of gelato. So the Cannonau wine, you see how we spell Cannonau from Sardinia. This is a picture I took of Cannonau Sardinia Riserva. Reserve is a top-level selection wine from 2013. I haven't drunk these bottles yet because I'm waiting for the right time. Cannonau is a wine that can age for a long time, like Brunello or Barolo. You can wait 20, 30 years and the bottle is still outstanding. Actually, the longer you wait, the better it is, up to a certain point, of course. So Cannonau in 20 years is still delicious. Some of the vines, you see the vineyards of Sardinia. And from the picture, you see the bottom picture, you can see the effect that the sea has. The vines get into the water, go all the way into the water. So it's a very special feature. And that's why Cannonau and other varieties of wine. In this little map, I show you some wine areas of Sardinia. So if you think about it, one region, there's a lot of wine areas. Very special features. And terroir, like the French call it, terroir. So the king or queen of Sardinia I mentioned is the sheep for the cheese, but also for the wool, because the Sardinian, bravo, Mari. When you see the sheep, you do this, always wave with two hands, and it should bring you money. It hasn't worked yet with me, but I'm working hard on it. So anyway, not only for the milk, but sheep is also famous for the wool. The wool of Sardinian sheep wool is very precious, like some Irish varieties and Asian varieties. And it's a culture, Sardinians are very dedicated to the life of sheep. So the Sardinian shepherds, we have lots of female and male shepherds in Sardinia, old and young. It's a job that gets passed on generation to generation. Some of the pecorinos, but also some of the cream cheeses of Sardinia. And this is a picture that a friend of mine sent me. This is a Sagra. It's a food festival in Sardinia. Of course, they have many food festivals dedicated to pecorino. And these gentlemen are slicing the pecorino for your palate. One of the best things of Sardinia is their own flag, because being such an independent region, it's actually one of the 5 regions in Italy with a special regulation. So they're part of Italy, but they have kind of a special regulation. Sardinia has its own flag. And this is a beautiful flag because it's the flag with the 4 Moors. You see these dark-skinned people with the kind of the bandana. Now, nowadays people think it's a bandana, but most likely the top right flag is the old one. You see, that's not a bandana. That's a blindfolding cloth. Those were prisoners. Those were the Sardinian flag has a beautiful story. I'll make it very short, but basically the 4 Moorish kings of the 4 Moorish areas, the African areas that were trying to take over Sardinia, were defeated by the Sardinian army in collaboration with the Spanish army, with the Spanish Armada, and those were the 4 kings that were imprisoned and eventually were sentenced to death. And in those days, often sentencing to death meant beheading, or in ancient times was mean crucifixion. But in these days, in the 1500s, actually in the year 1000, was by beheading. So those 4 heads represent the winning of Sardinia over the so-called conquerors. You know, nowadays it's people look at the flag and it's like it's beautiful flag, but has a beautiful and important story behind it. Today, the Sardinian flag is also a logo. In fact, if you look at the bottom right, we were mentioning with Rainer. Right now, I'm drinking some beautiful Vermont IPA beer here. But when I'm in Sardinia and I'm in Italy, I often drink Ichnusa. Ichnusa is the ancient name of Sardinia, the island of Sardinia in Greek. And the flag, the Sardinian flag, is on the logo label of the beer. Also, the Sardinian flag is it's a mark, a landmark, a mark of approval of quality. You know, when you see a piglet, a pork with the Sardinian flag, it means 100% Sardinian pork, and then even purses and bags, and there's a bunch of stuff. But anyway, the Sardinian flag has a lot of history behind it. This is one of the many sites in Sardinia in the southern area near Cagliari. It's called Nora. It's a beautiful mix of Phoenician and Roman architecture. In this case, it's a spectacular Roman mosaic in the archaeological site. And from this picture on the right, you see the shape of Sardinia. You see the beautiful shape of Sardinia. Look at how many little gulfs and beach areas you can find north, south, east, and west in the island. It's really incredible. If you rent your car and drive around Sardinia, you can spend a month. The picture of the panadas, the bread and meat dish. Another spectacular feature of Sardinia, and as a musician, as many of you, we know each other, so you know I'm a musician, I love music. Sardinia has spectacular music. In this picture, I'm showing you a traditional Sardinian band. It's a trio or a quartet, and they're called tenores, like the tenors, you know, like Pavarotti, Carreras, Domingo. In this case, the tenores, the higher pitch, the pitch on the top is the tenores de Biti, the best band, the Sardinian traditional singing band. And they sing in 3 different lines, 3 different melodies, and they create these spectacular harmonies of Sardinian music that if you go online, if you look for Sardinian tenors, anywhere, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and you listen to any of their songs, you understand what I mean. It's an incredible, emotional kind of music. And they perform, these bands, there are many, they perform all over Sardinia and actually all over the world. Even the music is unique in Sardinia. The language I mentioned is unique in Sardinia. You can see, I mean, if you know any Italian, if you read on the top left or top left, sa vida non contada su passo chi fais, ma si impronta chi lassas. Doesn't sound like Italian. It's a mix of Spanish, Greek, Phoenician, Italian, and Sardinians. And the sign means in life, it doesn't matter what step you take. What matters is the footprint that you leave on the ground. So what you leave for the next generations to come. It's an incredible expression. And the language comes from the ancient Phoenician language. In fact, at the bottom right, you find the stele, a stone, with the ancient Sardinian alphabet, which takes some Greek and Phoenician letters and transforms them into Sardinian. By the way, in the Western world, thanks to the Phoenicians, which were heavily present in Sardinia, we are able to have a written alphabet, because only the Phoenicians were the first populations to bring a written alphabet. After them, the Greeks, the Romans, everybody else followed and updated their alphabet, even the Etruscans. So very important population, more than we think. If you take a boat ride, a boat excursion in Sardinia, one of the many hundred caves by the beach, you can only access by the water, you see. So this picture has been taken from inside the cave, but there's no access from inside the cave to the beach. You have to dock your boat at the beach, flip-flops or bare feet, walk into the cave. And the caves are spectacular, cool in the summer. So if you have a little boat, you can take your little boat, go into the cave, put down your sandwiches, your picnic stuff, your towel. You want shade, you want cool, you will go inside the cave. You want to go into the water, that quality water, you go outside in the sun. And that's something I've done many times with some families and friends, friends and family. I'll show you quickly other pictures of some other hill towns of Sardinia. This is again Castelsardo seen from another side. Another picture of Bosa with the spectacular bridge over the canal. This is Oristano, quintessential Italian. You see the three-wheel car of Italy, of course. We have even in Sardinia, we have them. And narrow streets, mostly pedestrian, and very, very authentic, very low tourism in most places in Sardinia. This is one of the pictures from the Archaeological Museum of Cagliari, the National Archaeological Museum of Cagliari. One of the many street art elements on the island of Sardinia. This is Arzachena, if I'm not mistaken, the town of Arzachena. And then the geology again. In the north of Sardinia, you have an area with this phenomenal geological feature of this hard but not that hard rock that's been carved and shaped by the wind and the sand for hundreds, thousands of years actually, and created this smooth, curvy, hollow shapes, including the incredible bear, the bear of Sardinia. You look at the top left picture, it looks like a bear sitting on the promontory and looking over the valley and the waterfront. You can hike up there and imagine that a person is 30th in height of that bear. So it's a huge boulder that's been shaped like a bear. And again, you have that incredible hiking trail to get up there. It's not that bad, actually. It's not too difficult. Everybody can do it. You can drive not too far from that. But then you go down and you can go to the beach and have some great seafood meal at one of the many local restaurants. This is in the north coast of Sardinia, near Stintino, actually near Palau. But anyway, Alghero with the beautiful walls over the water. This would be this is actually one of my favorite stops in Sardinia. And I always love to go up to Alghero because you really have everything within short distance. And then this is a must-see. This town called Orgosolo. The whole town, each building, not one excluded, are covered in professional street art graffiti. Since 1969, in Orgosolo, graffiti artists from all over the world came and painted their masterpieces in the town of Orgosolo. So when you go to Orgosolo, you walk through the streets. It's an outdoor street art museum. And I've seen people working there from all over the world: Brazil, United States, China, Australia, UK. Even Banksy actually worked in Orgosolo, a famous Banksy, the finest nowadays street artist. And Orgosolo also has among my favorite food dishes in Sardinia. So some street art and some good food, good day. Another view of Alghero. I know maybe I'm sharing too many pictures of beaches, but in Sardinia, I don't know how many pictures I have of Sardinia, and it took me forever to select because it's really, it's a special place. It really is a special place. Whether you like lighthouses, old towns, new towns, street art, food, beach, boat, hike, you got it all. Some other selection pictures. Still Alghero, some underground ancient caves, Sardinian caves in the Nuraghe area. One of the most beautiful beaches of Sardinia. This is still the area, the northern area near La Pelosa, and some other spectacular constructions. Actually, these are ancient walls. These are Phoenician walls that were destroyed. The harbor, one of the harbor of the Phoenicians, part of it is still in the water, you see. And that's it. And that was my selection, pictures, and short presentation